Welcome back. Welcome to another episode of Nain Shorts. Thank you all for joining me. And the one viewer that watches every single episode, love you. But no, I know you guys all watch it, so yeah. But whenever you have time, do appreciate it. Again, thank you very much for the support. Before we start, I'd like to remind you people that there are a few seminars coming up. I believe the 13th of April at Wolf's Den Martial Arts Academy in Carson City, Nevada. There will be, John Atkinson will be hosting a stick and knife seminar taught by Senior Grandmaster Harry Green. So definitely look out for that. If you're in the area or just feel like getting away for the weekend, definitely a good place to go. It's a lot of fun, and you just bring an open mind and you get to learn a lot about Serrata. Now, when the weekend after that, the 20th, April in Manteca, there is the VA Martial Arts Collaborative. It is the first, I believe, of two of the big ones that he has. So there'll be 8 instructors on the floor, and you'll get to do stuff from stick to groundwork, to punching and kicking. Even Penkatsalat, I believe there will be Conrad Bowie, a good friend of ours, will be teaching that day, as well as my grandmaster in Kaju Kempo, Bob Gomez. So definitely go to either one of those or both of them if you can, but they are available. It's a great place to meet new people and have a lot of fun and learn new things. And really that's what it's about, is how do we then advance our training? How do we get more out of what we're doing? And that's what we're trying to constantly do, is improve, right? Get better at it, or at least I think that's what we should be doing. What I attempt to do by no means doesn't mean it's something you do, but I do like the feedback, because I am getting to learn a lot more based on these ideas and also what you guys are sharing with me. So continue doing that, please, because it helps me out a lot. And today, I'm actually holding one of John Atkinson's toys from Wolf's Den Armory. It's a crisp blade, and I picked this blade because it is, one, very cool. It is a trainer, and two, it relates to the topic at hand. What is the proper range for any particular weapon? Actually, let me rephrase that. What is the proper range for any particular tool? Now, that becomes important later on in the verbiage in which we use, because yes, we can call this a weapon. It was created for war. It's used very decoratively nowadays because nobody walks around with a sword. And if you do, you might be nuts. But still, an incredibly awesome tool. I do not know the full history of it, but it is a very dope blade, and I like playing with it. But I lack the knowledge of understanding its true purpose. The waves, I do believe they have something to do with the cutting, as in when you cut in, cut out, it really messes up that wound and it becomes harder to stitch. Something along those lines, I believe. I don't know the details. But the point is that every tool has its own uniqueness to it. Not just every type of tool, but every tool itself. Another crisp blade may be a different length, may be a different weight. And depending on which one you're more comfortable, or more importantly, which one you trained with, it changes its effectiveness at changing range. If the person comes in closer, how does it change the way you wield it? If you're used to only being at length, what the Filipinos would say largo mano, how does it change the blade and the way that you use it? So the type of blade itself can affect the effective range in which you can use it. Because then you take something like a blade, especially holding it in Pakao grip. What range is this blade now most effective? And we could easily just say it's whatever it is that you train, that's where it's going to be most effective. But the reason why I bring it up is because as we explore weapons, say I am using both a short and a long weapon. Yeah, I have the distance here. But if my target is at the distance of this blade in order for me to use this knife, well, I need to change the range. Or I'd have to let my opponent in so they change the range, and I can then effectively use the shorter blade. And we've seen this before, and anyone who's done FMA knows, so spada daga, that's what this is, the long sword and the dagger, influenced by Spanish fencing, right? Yeah, anyways. A very long, nimble blade, short cuts, piercing, and then the dagger to finish it off. Used for defense as well, but you can use the long one for defense and this one to kill. You can use this one to parry as this one comes out. So the variances are there, and depending on how you train it, but more importantly, how comfortable you are with it within your training. Because then that changes too, depending on what it is that you like. Some people wouldn't like this sword. Some people wouldn't like a long bendy sword. Some people want a double-handed sword. Some people feel more comfortable with a staff, with a club, with a small blade, in paka grip, in the ice pick grip. So depending on what you're more comfortable with, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, but ultimately it boils down to the individual. What do you like? What are you used to using? Very often you hear when you use weapons, train with the closest facsimile to the weapon you carry. No one carries a Chris sword, but still, if you have a live blade that's a Chris sword, well then have a trainer that also matches that. I wasn't taught that philosophy. From the very beginning, I was taught that these are just tools. Again, they're just that. On their own, they may look cool, but they cannot do anything to anyone. Unless you fall on it, it's not much of a danger. It's not truly a weapon until you put it in your hand. Until you have the intent to use it, to cause bodily harm, that it becomes a weapon. And you often hear in martial arts, whatever you put into your hand is literally just an extension of your hand. So then would that mean that I'm the real weapon? I'm the dangerous? I was gonna say tool, but then I just realized I called myself a tool. So am I Yeah, I'm a tool for that one. But the point is, if we think in that line or that train of thought, then yeah, and that's what I was taught. I'm the weapon. I'm what's dangerous. So whatever I put into my hand would become an extension of that. And if we're talking about weapons, as we were earlier, that each one has a more effective range. Even if you go as guns, right? Guns have an effective range. After that range, they're not quite as accurate. They're not quite as lethal. But you still get shot, It sucks. So even if it's not working at its optimum distance, you can still get something useful out of it. So training it or not training it and ending up in a life or death situation where you have a tool that you've never practiced with, well, at least you know something. And it may not be the best, but you can make it work. Especially if you took the time to develop the thing that drives it. Your hand movements, your mechanics, your stance, all the other things that we practice in martial arts, whether it's empty hands, with weapons or not, all those things then translate to whatever it is that goes into your hand, including the range. Because folks, some of us are taller, some of us are bigger, some of us are have longer arms, longer legs, some of us are more flexible, some of us are less flexible. There are so many differences in our bodies. The mechanics are the same, but our use of them, or even our ability to use the full extent of our mechanics, that completely changes over time. So even our personal range, and that's what the name is, personal range, your own individual effective range where your punch is the most deadly or the most effective to what you're trying to do. Because if your punch at full power is here, then is that really your personal range? Say your target is right there? Or is your most effective personal range here before that full extension, so you can actually punch through your target? So then it actually goes through and transfers all that energy into them. And would that be the same for the next person or the other person? And if we all practice the same moves, trying to mimic the same ranges or look the same, then are we truly exploring our own individual effective space? And where is that? And how do we develop that? How do we get to it without too much error? Because in class you want to do all that. You want to learn all those things and you want to get better at it in a safe space instead of figuring it out when, well, shit hits the fan and you don't have the time to really collect those things. So what are we really talking about? The adaptation of those differences. Rick, I did think of something that you could help me with, actually.
Damn, I thought I was gonna go.
No, you're not. So, sticks. It's a lot safer to play with, even though not always with you, because yeah, you suck. So, for us, our effective range is here. Now, we're doing the same thing. He's trying to hit my face. I'm trying to hit his face. The sticks meet. That's our safety mechanism because we're both trying to do the same thing. But still, this is my effective range, and so is his. There we go. But how do we discover whether or not that's the same? Because we're not trying to figure out if that's the same. We're just trying to figure out whether that works for you and that works for me. What if I step in? Oh, you know what? I actually felt stronger there this time around. So maybe this is my effective range. And as we play, now this is my effective range. Why? Because it stops that and I get everything that I need. Mind you, I'm using all of my mechanics. And how do we discover that? Well, I change the point of the weapon. Here, we're using the tip. But if we don't practice the bottom part, we don't realize, oh wait, maybe this isn't as effective out here. So what has to change in order to do it? Just like a blade, when it's shorter, you have to get in order for it to be effective. Doesn't mean you can't use the tip, and then that just gives you the range of what else you can play with. Thank you. That's all.
That's it?
That's it.
I don't get to hit you?
Do you want it?
No.
All right.
Oh, here.
Thank you. So for us, that's one of the ways that we train these ideas. And we actually did something similar this past weekend with our students, where we had them use their empty hand to essentially get a lock. The lock wasn't the important part. It was whether or not in a volley, as they're swinging their stick, as they're changing their ranges from their long to their short range, to their medium range, where was the most effective place for that individual to be able to get that grab, to get that lock, and to be able to drop their opponent to the ground. Because that requires you on the fly to understand where you are in that space, where you need to step to make that turn happen, and the timing of when you have to get your hand out there. And if you're already fully extended, you have no real strength to get that. And if you do it too late, you just got hit with a stick. So without giving them really the parameters of what we were actually trying to learn, we were just saying, we're learning this takedown. We effectively had the students on their own explore what their own personal range was, where they felt most effective to accomplish a specific task. Now, is that the right way? Is that the wrong way? I don't know. That's just the way that we have developed. Based on the ideas that every weapon or every tool is most effective in its own range, at its own time, Where that is, when that is, well, learning all the particular bits of the weapon, learning why it has waves, learning where it came from, what it was used for, who used it, who was most effective with it. We can start getting a good sense of how better to use it, when and where. So, in essence, if we take that idea, if we take that same course, would it then be a good thing to explore the very same concepts with us, ourselves, our bodies, our arms, our legs, our entire center of gravity, to figure out where can we be most effective with whatever it is that we're doing, with all the movements that we've learned, with all the techniques that we've learned? Are we using them in the most optimal place? Or is there room for improvement? Can we get better? Can we add or take away something that would make it that much more effective? Because it's no longer about what's in our hands. It's the hand itself. And where that goes and how it does whatever it is you tell it to do. So, yeah, please share your comments. How do you guys train your own personal ranges? You may not call it that, and actually I would love to know what you do call it. How do you refer to that space where you know, or that person knows, the individual student, or you, the practitioner, know that that's your effective range? That's where you want to be to make everything work right for you. Not based on the technique, not based on the movement, but on your body type, the length of your arms, your height, your weight, all of those things that will affect how you're able to perform these things. So, thank you very much for joining me on another one of Nain's shorts. Now I really want to play with this a bit more, so I'm going to do that. Meanwhile, I'll wait for the next one, and I'll see you there. Till then, 3, 2, 1, cut!